This is like take number 5,000 for the same thing I'm going to talk about. Oh, to be in public with a camera in the car and hope nobody looks at you like an idiot. We're going to start out with pentatonics. Everybody's probably heard of pentatonics. They're super easy. I'm going to show you 6 patterns that you can take and that you can move anywhere on the fretboard just by knowing the patterns and the patterns around them. So as always, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment. Let's get started. So we're going to dig in here. We're going to start with, me showing you all the patterns, and then I'm going to make some suggestions. Okay, so the first thing you got to know is you need to at least learn the notes on our 6th string, which is our E string. Just to keep it simple, every note on the fretboard, we've got intervals between those notes, meaning like distances, spaces. Okay, each fret is what they call a half step. 2 frets is a whole step. So let's just take E. There's only 2 sets of notes that have a half step or in between them, or a semitone, they call it semitone. E and F, so we got E to F, and then B to C. Every other one there has a sharp or a flat between it. Sharp on the guitar goes up a half step or a semitone. Flat goes down a half step or 1 semitone or 1 fret for each. Let's take this one here, and it's important that you know these, at least these, because that's what's going to help us find our key. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, or A flat, A flat, A sharp or B flat, B, and then C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then back to E. All right? Those are octaves there. E, same note, but just lower. All right, so at least learn these. Grab a chart on the internet somewhere and at least learn that first string, because that's going to help us find the key. I'm going to start, when I talked about this one pattern here that everybody probably knows, and we're sticking in the key of C because, and I didn't explain that well, but the key of C has no sharps or flats. It's like a universal like starter key. And then we'll go into the other ones later, like relative minors and things like that. Part 2 will cover a little more in depth, which isn't even that much in depth. It's just major and minor scales, which gives you more notes. Pentatonic, penta meaning 5. Penta is 5 notes in that scale. 3, 4, 5. The last note is an octave. So for this, in this example, we started with A and ended on A. C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the octave. Pattern 3, that's what I call it. Some people call it pattern 1, but I'm going to teach it to you pattern 3 because that's just the way I learned it. So we're going to go down to pattern 1. Pattern 1 starts on the open E string. I'll put it up on the screen, but this is what it is. Pattern 2. Pattern 3. Everybody's favorite pattern. Pattern 4. Pattern 5. And then finally pattern number 6. This one is special because it is the same notes as pattern 1. And you're like, well, why do you call it pattern 6? Maybe why do you just start all over? Well, the reason being is you're up an octave, so basically you can start over again. So with this, it gives you a starting point for anything beyond there. So pattern 1, pattern 6, same exact notes. What that means is I know the relation from pattern 1 to pattern 2 because wherever pattern 1 ends, pattern 2 begins, so forth. Pattern 2, pattern 3 begins. Now I know this, and I know pattern 2, pattern 3. So I always have an area that I can play the pentatonics in because I know the relation between each pentatonic pattern. So before I actually show you the backing track and what you can do with this. And again, it's going to be really basic, really simple. I've got this full-on 80s cheesy Cinderella / Pink Floyd-ish thing. And I'll show you how to identify the key if it's not written. In this case, it's actually written. We're in the key of A minor or C major. The reason why they say that is because C major and A minor are relative to each other. Each minor has a relative major, and vice versa, each major has a relative minor, meaning that they actually share the same notes in the scale. They just, one starts on A and one starts on C. Now that can be any key. It can be like relative minor to G is E minor, so it starts E to E or G to G. So next thing we're going to show you is how do I find this? Why do you got these patterns named 1, 2, 3? Okay, well, pattern 3 names our key. So for this method, there's plenty of other methods. There's always multiple ways to do everything. This is just my method. Pattern 3 names the key we're in. For example, so this is my A note on the 6th string. On the 8th fret, this is my C note. We have C major, A minor. That's not the notes. I'm just saying notes are notes. They don't, a combination of notes, or actually 3 notes, make up what they call a triad. That makes up a chord. I used to tell my students, I would say, look, this is my major finger, this is my minor finger. Sounds silly, but it works. What I mean by that is, if I know pattern 3 in the pentatonic patterns, I can find the key. If I use this is my major and this is my minor. So let's take this shape and just lay it down here on pattern 3. Well, right now I've got, this is a C note, so that's naming our key. C to C, C, C. Well, say we were in the key of G. I could find a G right here, E, F, F sharp, G, and it was G major. Okay, I'm going to put my pinky down on the 3rd fret, and I'm going to play the rest of pattern 3. I'm imagining that this is a fret, even though it's open. There's nothing happening. But it helps me with the pentatonic pattern. And it feels really weird. That is pattern 3. So we are in the key of G or E minor. I hope you understood what I did there. But let's take it, forget those imaginary frets, let's take it up here. So I said key of G, take my pinky, G major. I'm going to find my G up here. Remember, it stops right here at the double dots. At the 12th fret, that's an octave. That's the same as our open strings, E, A, D, G, B, E. So I'm going to start there, E, F, and then G. E, F, F sharp, G. Take my pinky, put it down here, then kind of backtrack and play the pentatonic pattern 3. Remember what I was saying, relative majors, relative minors. They all share the same thing. But it gives you a starting point and is especially useful when it comes time to play major and minor scales. But it does help in the pentatonics as well. So let's go back to our original key, the key of C. No sharps or flats. C, relative minor, A minor. C, we're going to play a C chord, right, and an A minor chord. They share the same notes. And then I'm going to play the pentatonic pattern over this. So again, major finger, 8th fret, C note. A minor. I haven't moved, but yet it does have a different sound. So that shows you that I didn't even change where I was at, but yet it kind of sounded different a little bit. Now let's put that into use. Same thing, and now I know I've got pattern 2 down here and pattern 1 here. You have to memorize them. I can't help you with that. So go memorize them right now and then come back to this. Let's add to some of that memorization Some things you can really do to memorize them is you can start up, going up, and then you can go down pattern 2. It helps you visualize the fretboard here. Now, you can start the other way, because going down this way, you know, back down, it is different than going up on the scale. So it's good to know both directions. I just hit a wrong note. Right? So try learning things that way too. That helps. All right, I'm going to play this backing track. It is a sappy ballad song, but it helps me. I don't have to go too crazy on the pentatonic, so you can kind of get a feel of that. Cue the sappy 80s music. It's fun to solo to. I'm going to start out with pattern 1. Going down pattern 2. So you see how simple that was, and what the cool thing about those is that as you learn what comes next, and especially if you know the song that you're playing to, you can kind of, without knowing any kind of crazy theory or looking at it and saying, okay, I'm going to play a C note, I'm going to play a D now, you can anticipate that change. When you're learning those, just try this, you know, paint that on the fretboard as dots, just to learn it, and anticipate what's coming next. And just connect those scales. So you've got patterns 1 all the way up to pattern 6, and then just starting over. So learn those, start with that. So the next part's going to cover basically filling those gaps, major and minor scales, and playing, you know, something that's, you know, your typical or minor. I skipped a note there. I'm going to include the backing track link in the description. Start with that, learn those pentatonic patterns, just play them one after the other right now. As always, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment.